Dear members of the Syrian Emergency Task Force, Syrian friends and clients, and members of the media, I am Martin McMahon, an attorney here in Washington, D.C., and I have with me my colleagues, specifically Adriana Pepinas and Umar Ahmed. With me also is Dr. Mohammed, who is part of the Syrian Task Force. Also with me, and by far more important, is our lead plaintiff, Hala, who's right here. She's a courageous woman, given what's going on in Syria today. These are very brave people who are Syrian and American citizens who have come forward today to initiate a lawsuit right here in federal district court. As one of my heroes, Martin Luther King, was fond of saying, it's always the right time to do the right thing, and it's the right time to sue Syria. That is one of our named defendants, the state of Syria, and also the intelligence ministry. We're suing them under a statute called the Foreign Sovereign Immunities Act. Anyway, this Syrian regime, courtesy of its security forces, has embarked upon a systematic and widespread campaign to brutally suppress all opposition, including peaceful protests, with lethal force, arbitrary arrests, and forced disappearances. The atrocities that I've personally read about or have spoken with individuals about include electric shocks, pulling out fingernails, burning genitalia, beating, sometimes while the victim is suspended from the air, bending the victim in a tire, that's called the tire torture, and using a backward bending chair to asphyxiate the victim or fracture the victim's spine. All of this stuff is and has been going on. I have personally witnessed President Assad's brother standing nearby with a couple of folks and watching a 14-year-old kid get brutally murdered. And President Assad's brother was right there. He's very much part of this. All of this conduct, of course, is in stark contrast to the principles enumerated in the Syrian Constitution, and your press kit should contain those provisions. Article 2.2 says sovereignty is vested in the people. What a joke. Article 12 states the state is at the people's service. Another joke. Its establishments seek to protect the fundamental rights of the citizens. As the world knows, the fundamental rights referenced in the Syrian Constitution has been trampled upon by the very establishments which ought to protect Syrian citizens. We have launched a lawsuit today for a number of reasons. First, we want to better inform the world as to what is going on in terms of the recent killings of approximately 700 peaceful Syrian citizens. The problem with that number, members of the media, is that the folks that we have interviewed and met with said, if that government is telling you there's 750, think of it as being 7,000 or 10,000. And we know some people who really have witnessed these atrocities. The second consideration is the deterrence factor. To send a warning to the various security forces that have roamed through Syria and kidnapped people from hospitals who are wounded and then tortured them in an unbelievable fashion and even shot at people attending funerals. The warning, and this is a real warning, whoever's watching this, you could be put on trial someday for your criminal conduct. There is a real possibility that could happen because as we speak, the International Criminal Court is preparing arrest warrants for Gaddafi and his comrades in Libya. So since the same conduct is going on in Syria that went on and is still going on in Libya, I think the International Criminal Court would be, I guess, willing to issue arrest warrants against the Assad family. We are currently working on an application for arrest warrants with that entity, and the task force wants us to continue working with the International Criminal Court and also the European Union. As I maybe have mentioned, the European Union is very active and is Syria's largest trading partner. In filing this lawsuit, our clients also wanted the Syrian people to know that the world, and in particular President Obama, the U.S. Congress, and the American citizenry are all watching these events with a careful eye. Perhaps this lawsuit will give Syrian citizens some level of comfort that something is being done to counteract the brutality that the Syrian regime is inflicting on its own people. If nothing else, this lawsuit will tell the world about the despicable prison located in Sednaya and run by state and security intelligence. If you're listening out there, Syrian intelligence people, it's branch number 285. In some parts of the lawsuit, we have used plaintiffs named John Doe, the reason being that if the people were identified, there'd be immediate repercussions in Syria, attacking their families. Syria, once a cradle of civilization, is now a virtual police state, and the John Does in the lawsuit are very afraid of dire consequences in Syria if word gets out that they've cooperated with us in any manner. There are press kits available which include a copy of this speech, a copy of the statement from the Syrian Emergency Task Force, their press release, and a copy of the various principles that are embodied in the Syrian Constitution. I'm sorry, I forgot to introduce Ahmed, who is the current spokesperson for the for the Syrian Emergency Task Force, and he is going to be giving you a similar statement. While the Syrian Constitution embodies these fundamental principles, you can get together and demonstrate and do all kinds of things, it really is a joke. They stand in stark contrast to the brutal behavior that the world has witnessed. Our law firm is working with the Syrian Emergency Task Force, and there's an official with the task force, Mr. Ahmed Aswad. He's available for questions. We're available to take some questions. We have some video, which will not be shown today, but you can contact the Syrian Task Force to get some of this video. I warn you, it is outrageous stuff. Don't eat lunch before you watch the video. Finally, and this is a message to President Assad and Syrian embassy officials if you're here today. I want you to know two things. First, that if you or any members of your family or members of your father's former advisory group have stolen funds that belong to the Syrian people, we're going to go after those funds and whatever assets we can find that those funds were used to acquire. Also, this is just an opening salvo. We're going to be amending our lawsuit to bring in other members of the Assad family, and we're going to be bringing in a lot more plaintiffs. But it's an opening salvo in a campaign of advocacy which will include activity in Western and, if necessary, Eastern Europe, where we believe Syrian assets are located. We look forward to a very active dialogue with the International Criminal Court and the European Union, and members of the media, thank you for coming. It's a small lawsuit right now, but you watch out the impact that lawsuit's going to have on the Assad regime. Thank you.